Okay, so we're going to start with our maple bacon onion jam recipe, and that is on our website. So the recipes are free, by the way. I don't know that you've seen that, but if you go to whiterosemanor.com, you can get to our blog, and there's a way to get past Mark. We are going to be working on our maple bacon onion jam recipe today. And if you haven't found the recipe online, you can find it at whiterosemanor.com. That's whiterose, MANOR.com. And there is a blog section that has our recipes. You can search for the recipes through the blog, or you can take the shortcut. In the top right-hand corner of the main page, there are two green diamonds. The left green diamond will separate all of the recipes from the rest of the blog. And from there you can scroll down and find which recipe you need. On most of these I have a little frog that says jump to recipe, so you can skip past all of the dialogue. But I'm also working on getting everything where it's printable in PDF and having shareable links so that it'll make it easy for you to maneuver, keep, and save. So without further ado, we're going to go to the maple bacon onion jam recipe. I'm going to jump on the little frog that says jump to recipe, and it's going to take me down to the recipe itself. Now right before the recipe are the utensils needed. So if you're a new cook, and I do a lot of this for 11, 12, 13-year-olds, so please forgive me if I get redundant in things that you know. But with young cooks, often things are new to them, so I try to cover it thoroughly. Eventually I may do an advanced class, but right now this is geared toward anybody that's new in the kitchen, uncomfortable in the kitchen, maybe has challenges. My father has Parkinson's, and so we work through things that might work better because his hands shake, safety discussions, alternative purchases so that he doesn't have to prep as much. But to give you an idea, the utensils needed for this are a large saucepan, a wooden or a silicone spoon, and today I'm going to actually use this egg turner, a bowl to hold your cooked bacon. I like to use scissors versus a knife to cut my bacon. I have a raw meat cutting mat, which is red, and when I'm using my different ingredients, the meat will get used on here, and I will use gloves, and as soon as its own transfer tool, as a matter of fact. All of this is for raw meat, so when I'm finished I can transfer all of the meat into the pan. Then I can put this away to be washed, peel off my gloves, and be good to go with the next step. The next step, of course, is the green cutting mat for the vegetables, and I have a knife for cutting those. And I don't necessarily have to worry so much about having gloves for this, but with meat I often do. As far as measuring cups and measuring ingredients, let me switch this back. I have a liquid measuring cup here, which has my coffee in it. Then we have measuring spoons, an airtight container for the hot mixture. I'm actually going to can these because these are gifts, so that's what I'll be doing after I get everything prepared while it's still hot. Of course, I have a stove, and I'm fortunate enough to have one of these splatter screens. I don't know if you have one, but this wonderful 5.5 quart pan I use for lots of things. But it comes, this one particularly, comes with its own splatter screen, and I can put it in the dishwasher, which is nice, and it doesn't break down easily because it's very well made. I'll try and remember to put a link to this. I'm not an Amazon influencer, but boy, when I find things I like to use, I like for other people to know, and I like for you guys to share with me as well. So I'm going to hang that up out of the way for the moment, and we're going to talk about our ingredients. Now, today, I'm going to use a 12-ounce. Oh no, they are both 16, so let's cancel that. So I wanted to show you some different things. These are both hardwood smoked bacons. Sometimes you can get an applewood smoked or a cherrywood smoked and get different flavors. So you're going to have to find something that you like. But when I choose my bacon, I flip it over and I look on the back through the lid. And you're allowed to pull this off, by the way, if you're in the market. you will see that this one is a lot more riddled with fat. And there's two windows on the back of this envelope. This end tends to be meaty, this end tends to be fatty. And this one here tends to be pretty marbled all the way along. So if I were serving bacon by itself, this is what I would be targeting for my meats. If I'm putting it in as an ingredient, I'm not quite so picky, so I can buy an off-brand if I'm going to change the flavor. But the real kick is you really need to make sure that you make it with a flavor that you like. And the smoked is a nice addition, whether it's cherry wood or apple wood or just plain hickory smoked. But those are your options. Now I keep my bacon as cold as possible to get started because I want to cut it. And when I cut it with scissors, the more rigid it is, the better off I'll be. Of course, I didn't unwrap this ahead of time, so let me do that real quick. And I will put on my gloves because at this point I'm going to be handling raw meat. Now, we have a health department regulations that we all have to follow. We have to have our hair, our hands, the whole bit properly contained, washed, and whatever. And you can cook with raw hands. The idea is that they're clean and to keep your hands away from your face and other things that could contaminate it. But right now, I'm going to use these gloves for this part. And in this particular package of bacon, the bacon sits on a sleeve of plastic. So, I can actually reach in and pull this plastic. Well, I can loosen it up a little bit and pull this plastic, and it will pull the whole thing out on my tray. Now, put that in the bin, peel the plastic off the bottom, toss that, and now I'm ready to go. So the idea is to cut this in little half-inch pieces. Now, remember, as you work with it, it's going to warm up. So get what you can hold in your hand and just cut it. So my scissors lock themselves, so every once in a while I have to undo them. And sometimes they're a little bit rough to work with because I need to sharpen them again. So I will have my husband, who's a blacksmith, sharpen these up. But I'm going to cut this in little half-inch size pieces. And if I get really frustrated, I'll get the knife out. But for the moment, this will work. And sometimes I'll even fold it in half to give it a little more substance when it gets to those ends. You ever hear how it makes that sound when I cut? And as I get it the way I like, I'll clear off my cutting mat here in just a second and put it all in that pan to be cooked. So at one point I will go in the other room and I will cook this till it's brown but not completely cooked, because I will be adding the pre-cooked bacon that we're going to be making out of this into the finished onion sauce and cooking it some more until it actually gets that jam type consistency. We want those sugars to cook down and become caramelized before we know it's done. Now, right now in front of me, we're talking about different ingredients that I have. I prefer to use a Vidalia onion and a purple onion. Most of that is because of color. And you can use all the same kind of sweet onion if you want to, but I like the color differentiation of the two onions. So I use one of each. Some people call a purple onion a red onion, some people call it a purple onion. At any rate, that's what I'm using, and it says it is a red onion. To me, it's as purple as it could possibly be. So, I grew up calling it purple onions. Put purple onions in my German cooking. Another recipe I have online is my German cucumber salad. So that also calls for these purple onions. I usually have them in one hand. And as you can see, I have a bunch of half-inch pieces. Some of it's still into strips because it needs to be broken apart. But cooking it will do that. So I'm just going to move this over here. And I could use my transfer tool, but I have a whole other slab of bacon underneath it, so I'm just going to throw some of this that's on top into the pan. The pan does not need any kind of coating because bacon grease is a coating in itself and it keeps things from sticking. And I do use a nonstick pan because it just makes my life easier. So I recommend that you do that. Once we get this bacon cooked, we'll transfer it to the bowl. And I have an orange bowl right here to put it in. I don't have to worry about draining it. I'm going to need some of that grease to actually make the onion mixture that it all gets added, but you're not going to need all of it. So you can just pick up your bacon out of the pan when you're there, when you get it partially cooked, and then you can pour off the grease that's in, all but about 1 or 2 tablespoons that's in the bottom of the pan. So one of the things I was going to show you when I first started doing this was sometimes I use a 12-ounce container of bacon. It really depends on if I'm making it just for the evening, if I'm making it for gifts, if I'm making it for long-term, and this does freeze by the way, if I'm making it for a long-term process, I'll usually make the whole batch of 16 ounces. But I found on occasion I have picked up a 12-ounce package of bacon, and that works fine too. It just isn't quite as meaty, but sometimes, you know, an onion makes up for it, right? Alright, so the name of this recipe is Maple Bacon Onion Jam, and somebody asked me one day, why do you call it Maple Bacon Onion Jam if there's no maple in it? Well, actually, you can get maple brown sugar. You can add maple syrup. I prefer to use maple extract because I keep it on hand all the time. And sometimes you can get maple flavored bacon. So originally when I made this recipe, it was maple flavored bacon. Alright, so I'm through with this. I'm going to use this transfer tool here to pick up the bacon and move it. And at this point we are absolutely through with this cutting mat, this transfer tool, and these scissors. So I can take these off in reverse so I don't get the meat on my hand. Pick this up from the bottom and move it away to be washed separately. Now we're on to the next section. So I'm going to stop for just a minute. I'm going to cook this bacon until it is light brown. I will place it in this bowl, so when I return you'll see a bowl of bacon here. And this will have only some of the sauce, some of the bacon grease, so that we can saute the onions. But I'm going to go do that first, and then I'll come back and be right with you.